California prides itself on being the Golden State, but today, Harriet Hageman tears that shine to pieces. From wildfire mismanagement to political arrogance, she's about to dismantle years of failed leadership in just minutes. This isn't a debate, it's a public demolition, and every word hits harder than the last.
Mr. Hilton, are you a firefighter?
I'm not a firefighter.
Mr. Ring, are you a firefighter? Mr. Ring, it's just a yes or no question. Mr. Ring, are you a firefighter?
No.
All right, Mr. Green, are you a firefighter?
I'm not a firefighter.
The northern part of my district was evacuated. I've talked to numerous firefighters. I've visited the intensive damage. I've had multiple briefings from firefighters, first responders, and fire chiefs. This is what they told me. The reason these fires in Southern California spread so quickly, caused so much damage, was because of Santa Ana winds that reach unprecedented gusts of 100 miles per hour. Gusts so high that helicopters and the airplanes could not fly. Also because of very low relative humidity and the driest conditions in California history. None of the firefighters said it was about overregulation or homeless people or the Delta smelt fish or the timber harvest or voter ID laws. So shame on anyone who is exploiting the pain and suffering of disaster victims to jam through partisan ideological policies. We should get disaster aid.
Buckle up, guys. Today we're going to see Harriet Hageman drop a wildfire reality check right on California's doorstep. From the start, she shreds the idea that this bill will help, warning it could make wildfires even worse. This isn't just politics, it's first-hand knowledge meeting stubborn ideology, and she's not holding back.
To these disaster victims now without conditions, just like we treat every other disaster victim across America. We just gave aid this past December to South Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma. The Democrats say, hey, we want you to do better on climate change policies in your state. No, we just gave that aid because these are Americans who are suffering. So do not exploit them. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Now recognize the gentlewoman from Wyoming, Hageman. Ms. Hageman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Climate change and global warming are the scapegoats for the Democrats and radical environmentalists to deflect attention from their failed policies and the destruction caused by their own actions. In 2001, under Bill Clinton, the Forest Service adopted the roadless rule, which was designed to deny access, management, and use to 58.5 million acres of National Forest Service lands. We warned at the time that this rule would cause catastrophic forest fires, reduce the amount of water available for communities for farming and other uses, and also result in catastrophic pine beetle outbreaks, which is in fact exactly what.
All right, guys, California's wildfire crisis takes center stage here, as Harriet breaks down the Santa Ana winds, dry climates, and a leadership unwilling to face the truth. She paints a brutal picture of a state famous for fires but failing at prevention, then pivots to the raw truth about economic collapse and real money when systems fail.
What has occurred. Every single one of the things that we described would happen has in fact happened, and California has suffered maybe more than many of the states. Recently, the gentleman who ran the Forest Service under Joe Biden actually admitted in a hearing that the roadless rule was one of the primary roadblocks to proper and effective forest range management. So to say that the government is always trying to fix its last solution, I don't think you need to look any further than the roadless rule. California has essentially the same water infrastructure in place today with 40 million people that it had in the 1960s with 16 million people. So when we talk about putting conditions on the kind of relief that is going to be necessary to help to rebuild California, it must include additional water infrastructure and fire mitigation methods to avoid having these kinds of catastrophes happen ever again. I have an article that I have just recently pulled up. It stated that Newsom vetoed a bill to enhance fire mitigation so he could grab the land for affordable housing. This was a bill that was introduced in 2020, SB 182. It was authored by then State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson.
Here's where it gets personal. Harriet draws from her days as a park ranger, recalling Yellowstone's wildfire lessons. She explains how ignoring prescribed burns led to disaster, then slams California Democrats for valuing elite feelings over common sense. It's a mix of expert insight and pure frustration at leaders who ignore the obvious. Part 4, 4:55 to 7 o'clock. California's management disaster is exposed here, 800 home permits after 16,000 houses burned. Harriet tears apart the endless bureaucratic hoops that delay recovery, mocking the illusion of helping the economy or environment. It's a slow-motion failure in plain sight, and she's making sure no one can look away from the numbers.
A Democrat from Santa Barbara, whose district had just suffered the Thomas fire. This bill sought to increase local planning requirements and guidelines for permitting development in certain fire hazard severity zones. But what happened to that bill? It passed through both the Senate and the House. It was actually a very good bill. What happened? Mr. Newsom vetoed it. Why did he veto it? Because it did not comport with his idea of getting rid of single-family homes and pushing people into multifamily homes. And in his veto letter, he actually stated, wildfire resilience must become a more consistent part of land use and development decisions. However, whenever a politician uses the word however, you know they're going in the opposite direction, don't you? However, it must be done while meeting our housing needs. And for him, he wanted the money and the attention and the policy to focus on multifamily homes, not in protecting and hardening the resources available for the existing homes. So call me a bit skeptical when I hear the folks on the other side jump up and down and scream and yell about the fact that they've been doing everything necessary to try to harden and try to address these catastrophes when the exact opposite is in fact true.
Harriet closes with a blistering list of California's national parks and lands, saying they should know better. Instead, leaders cling to ideology, drive away residents, and let infrastructure crumble. She ends with a vow not to set foot there until things change. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.